Good afternoon and welcome back. So we are coming to the last part of this chapter, which is biodiversity conservation. Now if you take biodiversity conservation, what are the reasons for conserving biodiversity? What are the reasons? That means what are the uses of biodiversity? Biodiversity, you get food, isn't it? The plants give us food, plants give us medicine, plants give us whatnot for us. Okay, right. For these purposes only we have to, this is some of the reasons for which we have to definitely conserve the biodiversity. So the reasons for conservation are, which are narrowly utilitarian arguments. Narrowly, that is for the small uses what the biodiversity serves, which is the narrowly utilitarian reasons, broadly utilitarian reasons, and also the third reason is the ethical reasons, for the ethical purpose. Right. Now what are the narrowly utilitarian arguments? Humans derive economic benefits from nature, such as food, firewood, fibers, etc., whatnot, dyes, resins, perfumes, medicines, etc., from the biodiversity. Okay, and 25% of the drugs are derived from plants, and 25,000 species of plants have medicinal values. Okay, for these purposes, because we get everything from plants, okay, mostly from plants and also from the animals, we have to conserve these plants and animals, or in short, biodiversity. We have to conserve biodiversity. And what are the broadly utilitarian arguments? Biodiversity plays a major role in many ecosystem services. For example, the Amazon forest produces 20% of the total oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. Amazon forest produces 20% of the total oxygen of the Earth's atmosphere. Pollination through bees, bumblebees, birds and bats. And for aesthetic purposes, what is this aesthetic purposes, children? If you just stand in your beautiful garden, how happy one will be, right? If you stand in a beach, how many hours if we spend time in beach, it will not be enough for us, right? If you look at the picture of beautiful sceneries, even the picture itself gives soothing effect to us, isn't it? Right. So these are the ethical reasons for which we have to definitely conserve the biodiversity and ecosystem also as such. Children, conservation methods can be studied broadly under two categories, which is in situ conservation or on-site, and ex situ conservation for off-site. On-site and off-site, or in situ and ex situ conservation. In situ conservations include the establishment of national parks, zoos, botanical gardens, and like that. Okay, all these comes under the in situ conservation, right? So in situ include the conservation of genetic resources within the natural or human-made ecosystems in which they occur. It includes protected areas such as national parks, sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, cultural landscapes, natural monuments, etc. India has 14 biosphere reserves, 90 national parks, and 448 wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, and strictly reserved for the welfare of the wildlife, where private ownership, cultivation, grazing, etc. are prohibited. Example, Iravikulam National Park in Kerala, where in this Iravikulam the cultivation and private ownership of lands in this area, grazing of animals, everything is prohibited, and only for the conservation of the animals of this Iravikulam, the national park is established. Okay, these are some other examples of in situ conservations. Okay, and even sacred groves come under in situ conservation. What are sacred groves, children? For example, we say Kavu in Kerala, right? Kavu, that is usually the sacred groves. So like that, sacred groves are found in even North India also. Kavu, not Kavu itself, another divinities there. Along with that, a small forest area is also found. Okay, so they do not dare to harm the species of plants or animals living there. Thereby, many species have been protected. Okay, so for example, forest fragments which are communally protected based on religious belief. Example, sacred groves in Khasi and Jaintia Hills in Meghalaya, Aravalli Hills of Rajasthan, Western Ghats of regions of Karnataka and Maharashtra, Sarguja, Chanda and Basta areas of Madhya Pradesh. These are all where these sacred groves exist. Okay, because of the religious belief that these there is maybe there is a temple or something, and along with there is a forest along with that temple, and as such the temple as well as the forest area along with the animals and plants of that area is preserved. That is sacred groves. Okay, so ex situ conservation. Next is ex situ conservation. So it is the conservation of organisms outside their habitat. For example, gene banks, cryopreservation, all these comes under the ex situ conservation. What are these gene banks? Like our blood bank and eye bank and so. Even the genes are collected from the organisms, desirable genes, or the genes of the animals which are going to get extinct within few years. Their genes may be collected. Or what is cryopreservation? It is the preserving of the eggs and sperms of the animals which are going to get extinct in the near future, or the animals which have become extinct already. Before their extinction, they have collected and stored in very low temperature in liquid nitrogen. Very low temperature in liquid nitrogen. That is called as cryopreservation. And the seeds of plants are stored like this, and you can use it for after many years also. They can be taken and used for growing new plants, or they can be used, this egg and sperms can be used for fertilization. Okay, so that is cryopreservation, children. Now, biodiversity hotspots. Now, what do you mean by hotspot? Which regions are considered as hotspots? Hotspots are the regions with a high biodiversity, but in the verge of extinction. It contains these hotspots are the regions which are very rich in biodiversity, plus they are also, most of them are in the verge of extinction. Okay, that is how you categorize hotspots. These are the regions with very high species richness, high degree of endemism. What do you mean by endemism or endemic species? Endemic species are the species which are found only in that particular area, which are native to that region, only found in that place and nowhere else in the world, which is called as endemism, endemic, okay, to a specific region, but most threatened. So these are the regions with very high species richness, but most threatened also. Okay, there are 34 hotspots in the world. 3 hotspots cover India's biodiversity regions: Western Ghats and Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma and the Himalayan regions. Okay, and these are the regions with the, that is repeated. Children, all hotspots together cover only 2% of the Earth's land areas, but the species richness is extremely high, and protection of these hotspots reduce the ongoing extinction by 30%. Now I told you now the ongoing extinction rate is nearly 100 times faster than the olden days or olden times, and the main reason behind is the human beings, right? Okay. And there is international efforts for conserving. What are the, at the national and international levels, what are the things done for protection or conserving the biodiversity? For example, Earth Summit, which was conducted in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, and the objectives of this Earth Summit, which was mainly convention on biological diversity. The main aim was to conservation of biodiversity, sustainable use of biodiversity, sharing of benefits arising from genetic resources. And the World Summit, which was held in Johannesburg 2002. The World Summit on Sustainable Development, held in 2002 in Johannesburg, Africa. 190 countries pledged to reduce the current rate of biodiversity loss. Okay, and also see, there is in further coming years also there will be reduction in the loss of biodiversity. Okay children, so that is with the chapter. Thank you all very much.